Her hands froze on the buttons of her blazer. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Every woman in the locker room turned to stare, not at her face, but at her stomach. The truth was written all over her body now. 4 months along, and no amount of loose clothing could hide it anymore. She should have said no. She should have laughed it off. She should have lied. But the silence stretched too long. "Oh my God, she is!" Minji's voice rose, sharp and delighted in the cruelest way. "She's pregnant." The whispers started immediately, spreading like poison through the staff locker room of the Pearl Lounge, Seoul's most exclusive private club, where Amara had spent 3 years making herself invisible. That invisibility was gone now. "Who's the father?" someone asked, laughing. "Does he even know?" "Probably some random guy," another voice chimed in. "You know how they are." The words hit like a slap. Amara kept her face blank, her shoulders straight. She would not cry. Not here. Not in front of them. But Minji wasn't finished. "Does Manager Choi know?" she asked, her tone dripping with false concern. "Because I'm pretty sure this violates company policy." It didn't. Amara had checked. But that didn't matter. In this country, in this job, in this moment, the truth didn't matter at all. Welcome to Afro Korean Tales and Stories, the home of Afro Korean love stories where passion crosses cultures and hearts learn new languages. If you're new here, this channel is dedicated to powerful, emotional stories between Black women and Korean men, filled with romance, tension, longing, and moments that stay with you long after the story ends. And to our returning family, welcome back. Your love, comments, and support keep these stories alive. Before the story continues, take a moment to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new tale. Now tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? And what part of this story is already pulling at your heart? Let's connect. Let's feel the story together. 10 minutes later, Amara stood in Manager Choi's office. He didn't even look at her. "You're terminated," he said flatly, sliding a severance envelope across the desk. "Effective immediately." "I didn't break any rules," Amara said, her voice steady even though her hands were shaking. "Pregnancy isn't grounds for. You're a liability." Manager Choi finally looked up, his expression cold. "Our clients expect a certain standard. You no longer meet it." The words hung in the air like a verdict. Amara had learned to make herself small in the 3 years she'd worked here. She kept her head down, her smile polite but not too warm, her movements efficient. She served champagne to men in tailored suits and laughed quietly at jokes she didn't understand in Korean she'd learned just well enough to survive. She'd thought that was enough. It wasn't. Amara took the envelope. She didn't open it. She knew it wouldn't be enough. "Clean out your locker and leave through the back," Manager Choi added, already turning back to his computer. "We don't want a scene." But there was already a scene. When Amara walked back into the locker room, every eye was on her. Minji leaned against the wall, arms crossed, smirking like she'd won something. "So?" she asked loudly. "Fired." Amara didn't answer. She opened her locker, pulled out her coat and bag, and shut the metal door with a hollow clang. The silence was worse than the whispers. Then someone muttered, just loud enough to be heard, "Guess that's what happens when you spread your legs for the wrong guy." Laughter rippled through the room. Amara's vision blurred. Not from tears, she still refused to cry, but from sheer suffocating rage and humiliation. Every step toward the door felt like walking through fire. "Hey, Amara!" She stopped. Minji stepped into her path, blocking the exit. Her smile was vicious. "You should have been more careful," she said sweetly. "Seoul isn't kind to women like you." For just a moment, Amara let her see the steel beneath the silence. "Move," Amara said quietly. Minji hesitated. Then she stepped aside. Amara walked out. The back exit led to a narrow alley behind the club. The morning was cold and gray, the kind of February day that seeped into your bones. Amara stood there, clutching her bag, her breath coming in short, controlled bursts. She was alone. Completely, utterly alone. No job. No savings. No family in this country. And a child growing inside her that she had no idea how to protect. The weight of it pressed down on her chest until she could barely breathe. For the first time in 3 years, Amara Okoye let herself feel the full force of her isolation. And then she felt something else. The prickling sensation of being watched. She turned sharply, scanning the alley. Shadows. Empty crates. The distant hum of traffic. No one. But the feeling didn't go away. Her pulse quickened. She wasn't imagining it. Someone was out there. Amara pulled her coat tighter and walked toward the street, her footsteps echoing off the brick walls. She didn't look back. She didn't see the black car idling at the corner. She didn't see the man in the back seat, his face half hidden in shadow, watching her with an intensity that could burn through steel. And she had no idea that the most dangerous man in Seoul had witnessed her humiliation from the very beginning, or that he had already made a decision that would change everything. Kang Jun-suk didn't believe in coincidence. He sat in the back of his black Mercedes, parked in the shadows across from the Pearl Lounge's rear exit, and watched the woman stumble into the alley like she'd been thrown there, which, in a way, she had been. His driver, Han, shifted uncomfortably in the front seat. "Sir, we're going to be late for the—" "Wait," Jun-suk said quietly. Han went silent immediately. Jun-suk's eyes never left her. Amara Okoye. He knew her name. He knew where she lived. He knew she sent money back to Nigeria every month, that she worked double shifts when she could get them, that she walked home alone through dangerous neighborhoods because she couldn't afford taxi fare. He knew everything about her. Except one thing. He hadn't known she was going to keep the child. 4 months ago, he'd made a mistake. Kang Jun-suk didn't make mistakes. He built an empire on precision, control, and calculated risk. He was 28 years old and already controlled half of Seoul's underground economy. Politicians feared him. Rival gangs avoided him. Even his own men kept their distance. But one night, after a deal that had gone sideways and left 2 men dead, he'd walked into the Pearl Lounge looking for silence and expensive whiskey. He'd found her instead. She'd served him without flinching. Without the nervous energy most people carried in his presence. She'd met his eyes only once, briefly, respectfully, and then looked away. He should have let her go. He didn't. That night had been a weakness. A lapse in judgment. A moment where the control he wore like armor had slipped just enough to let something human through. He'd told himself it meant nothing. And then 3 weeks ago, one of his informants had mentioned in passing that a server at the Pearl was pregnant. African woman. Kept to herself. Hadn't told anyone who the father was. Jun-suk had ordered a full background check within the hour. The timeline matched. The child was his. Now, watching her stand in that alley, alone, humiliated, visibly pregnant with his child, something cold and sharp twisted in his chest. Not guilt. Jun-suk didn't do guilt. But something close to it. "Sir." Han's voice was careful. "Should we intervene?" Jun-suk's jaw tightened. He'd witnessed the entire scene. He'd arrived early for a meeting with the club's owner, a man who owed him money and respect, in that order, and had seen the staff locker room door ajar. Heard the raised voices. He'd heard every word they'd said to her. Every cruel laugh. Every degrading comment. Every moment of her public destruction. He could have stopped it with a single phone call. One word from him and those women would have been on their knees begging for forgiveness. But he hadn't. Because Kang Jun-suk didn't save people. He used them. Controlled them. And if she was carrying his child, he needed to know what kind of woman she was when she thought no one was watching. Would she crumble? Would she beg? Would she lash out? She'd done none of those things. She'd walked out with her head high and her silence intact. Dignity, he realized, even when stripped of everything else. That was rare. That was useful. "Follow her," Jun-suk said. Han started the engine. The Mercedes rolled forward slowly, keeping a careful distance as Amara made her way down the narrow street. She walked quickly, her coat pulled tight around her, her bag clutched to her chest. She didn't look back. Didn't slow down. But Jun-suk could see the tension in her shoulders, the way her breath came out in visible puffs in the cold air. She knew someone was watching. Good. She had survival instincts. She'd need them. Where is she going? Han asked quietly. Jun-suk didn't answer. He already knew. She lived in a tiny apartment in Daramdong, one of the poorest neighborhoods in Seoul, where rent was cheap and questions were rarely asked. It was a 40-minute walk from here. She couldn't afford the subway anymore. His hand curled into a fist against his knee. Sir, Han said again, more urgently this time. The meeting. Cancel it. Han's eyes widened in the rearview mirror. Cancel? But the owner of the pearl, he's expecting. I said cancel it. Jun-suk's voice dropped to a tone that made grown men reconsider their life choices. And make a call. I want to know everything about who fired her. Manager Choi, the senior servers, everyone involved. Names. Addresses. Family. Yes, sir. Han pulled out his phone immediately. Jun-suk leaned back in his seat, his eyes still tracking Amara as she turned a corner. He wasn't angry. Anger was inefficient. But there was a cold, methodical calculation happening in his mind. A list forming. Actions and consequences. Debts to be paid. No one humiliated the mother of his child and walked away unscathed. They followed her for 20 minutes. She stopped once, outside a convenience store. She stood there for a long moment, staring at the entrance like she was trying to decide something. Then she walked past it. Jun-suk's eyes narrowed. She's hungry, he said quietly. Han glanced back. Sir. She's pregnant and she's hungry, but she doesn't have enough money to buy food and pay rent. Jun-suk's voice was flat, emotionless. So she's choosing rent. Han said nothing. Jun-suk pulled out his phone and sent a single text message. Within seconds, a reply came back. Confirmed. The information he'd requested was already being compiled. He looked up just as Amara reached her building, a run-down apartment complex with peeling paint and flickering streetlights. She disappeared inside without looking back. Pull over, Jun-suk said. Han obeyed. For a long moment, Jun-suk sat in silence, staring at the building. At the third-floor window where a dim light had just flickered on. She was up there right now. Alone. Probably trying to figure out how to survive the next week, the next month, the next 9 years. She had no idea that survival was no longer her decision to make. Sir, Han said carefully. What do you want to do? Jun-suk's expression didn't change. Nothing, he said. Not yet. Han looked confused. But... She doesn't know I'm the father, Jun-suk said quietly. And until I decide how to handle this, she won't. You're going to let her struggle? Jun-suk's eyes were cold. I'm going to let her think she's struggling. There's a difference. He would have her watched. Protected from a distance. He'd make sure she didn't starve, didn't end up on the street, didn't fall into real danger. But he wouldn't reveal himself. Not until he was ready. Not until he understood exactly what he was dealing with. Because Kang Jun-suk had built his empire on one unbreakable rule. Never make a move until you control every variable. And Amara Okoye, proud, stubborn, carrying his child, was a variable he didn't fully understand yet. But he would. As the Mercedes pulled away from the curb, Jun-suk made one more call. It's me, he said when the line connected. I need a full report. Medical records, financial history, every person she's spoken to in the last 6 months. And I want surveillance. 24 hours. She doesn't leave her apartment without me knowing. A pause. No, he said, his voice dropping to something darker. She doesn't know I'm watching. And she won't. Not until I'm ready. He ended the call. Outside the window, Seoul blurred past in neon and shadow. Somewhere in that city, Amara Okoye was trying to figure out how to survive alone. She had no idea that the most dangerous man in Seoul had already decided she wouldn't be alone much longer. Whether she wanted his protection or not. Amara sat on the edge of her narrow bed, staring at the severance envelope in her hands. She hadn't opened it yet. She already knew it wouldn't be enough. The apartment was silent except for the hum of traffic outside and the drip of the leaky faucet she couldn't afford to fix. One room. A hot plate instead of a stove. A bathroom so small she had to turn sideways to close the door. This was supposed to be temporary. 3 years ago, when she'd arrived in Seoul with nothing but a work visa and a dream of sending money home to her family in Lagos, she'd told herself it would only be for a year. Maybe 2. Just long enough to save. To build something. To prove she could make it on her own. But Seoul had other plans. The city took everything she had and gave back just enough to keep her surviving. Never thriving. Just surviving. And now, she didn't even have that. Amara placed her hand on her stomach. 4 months. The baby was the size of an avocado now. She'd looked it up on her phone in a moment of weakness. An avocado. Such a small thing to completely destroy her life. She hadn't planned to keep it. When she'd first missed her period, she'd told herself it was stress. When the second month came and went, she'd bought a pregnancy test from a convenience store 3 neighborhoods away where no one knew her. 2 lines. She'd stared at that test for 20 minutes, sitting on the bathroom floor, trying to figure out what to do. An abortion would have been logical. Clean. No one would have known. But every time she tried to make the appointment, something stopped her. Not morality. Not religion. Fear. Fear that if she erased this one piece of proof that she'd been seen, truly seen, by someone, even for just one night, she'd disappear completely. So she'd kept it. And kept it secret. Until today, when her body betrayed her in front of people who already hated her. Amara closed her eyes and let herself remember. 4 months ago. The Pearl Lounge had been quieter than usual. Most of the staff had gone home. Amara was finishing her closing duties, wiping down tables, collecting abandoned glasses, when he walked in. She'd seen him before. Not often, but enough to know who he was. Kong Jun-suk. The name was whispered in the back rooms of the club like a curse. The kind of man you didn't look at directly. The kind of man who could ruin your life with a phone call. He'd sat at the bar in the shadows, his suit perfectly tailored, his expression unreadable. Amara had approached because it was her job. "Can I get you anything, sir?" He'd looked at her then. Really looked. Not the way most men did. Assessing, dismissing. This was different. Sharper. Like he was reading her in a language she didn't know she spoke. "Whiskey," he'd said. Neat. She'd poured it. Set it down in front of him. Started to walk away. Stay. The word wasn't a request. Amara had frozen. Every instinct told her to run. But she'd turned back, kept her expression neutral. "I'm not supposed to sit with customers, sir. I'm not a customer." His voice was quiet, cold. "And you're not going to say no." He was right. She'd sat. They didn't talk much at first. He drank in silence. She sat in silence. The club emptied around them until it was just the 2 of them and the bartender counting cash in the back. Then he'd asked her a question. "Why are you here?" "I work here," she'd said carefully. "That's not what I asked." Amara had met his eyes. Saw something there she didn't expect. Not cruelty. Not lust. Exhaustion. "I needed a job," she'd said finally. This was the one that paid. He'd nodded slowly. Like that answer made sense to him in a way nothing else did. "You're afraid," he'd said. Not a question. A statement. "Of you?" Amara had asked. "Of everything." And God help her, he was right. She'd been afraid every single day since she arrived in this country. Afraid of being deported. Afraid of failing. Afraid of the men who looked at her like she was nothing. Afraid of the women who treated her like she was less. But in that moment, sitting across from the most dangerous man in Seoul, she'd felt something shift. Maybe it was the whiskey he'd poured for her. Maybe it was the way he looked at her like she was a person instead of a servant. Or maybe it was just that she was so tired of being afraid alone. She didn't remember who moved first. But she remembered his hands, surprisingly gentle. She remembered the way he'd looked at her in the dim light of the VIP room upstairs, like he was memorizing her. She remembered thinking, just for a moment, that she mattered. It was a lie, of course. But it was a beautiful one. Afterward, he'd dressed in silence. She'd done the same. He'd looked at her once more, his expression unreadable. This didn't happen, he'd said. And then he'd left. No name. No number. No promise. Just the cold reality that men like him didn't keep women like her. Amara had told herself she was fine with that. She'd gone back to work the next day. Pretended nothing had changed. Ignored the way her hands shook when she served drinks. Ignored the way her heart raced every time the door opened, half hoping, half terrified he'd walk back in. He never did. And when she'd found out she was pregnant, the thought of contacting him had never even crossed her mind. What would she say? Remember that night you wanted to forget? Well, I'm carrying your child. He'd either deny it or destroy her. Maybe both. Men like Kang Jun-suk didn't have families. They had empires. And she was nothing but a liability. So she'd decided to handle it alone. She'd keep working. Keep saving. Keep surviving. The baby would be hers. Only hers. No one needed to know. Especially not him. But now, sitting in her tiny apartment with no job and no future, Amara wondered if she'd made a terrible mistake. Not in keeping the baby. In thinking she could do this without help. She opened the severance envelope finally. Counted the bills inside. 300,000 won. Barely enough for 2 months' rent. Her throat tightened. She thought about calling home. Telling her mother. Asking for money she knew her family didn't have. But that would mean admitting she'd failed. That the daughter who'd promised to make something of herself had ended up pregnant, jobless, and alone in a foreign country. She couldn't do that to them. So she'd figure it out herself. Somehow. She had to. Amara stood up, walked to the window, and looked out at the Seoul skyline. Bright, indifferent, beautiful. Somewhere out there, Kang Jun-suk was living his life. Running his empire. Probably didn't even remember her name. And that was fine. She didn't need him. She didn't need anyone. She pressed her hand to her stomach again, felt the smallest flutter of movement, real or imagined, she wasn't sure. It's just you and me, she whispered. And we're going to be okay. She almost believed it. What Amara didn't know, what she couldn't know, was that 3 blocks away, in the back of a black Mercedes, Kang Jun-suk was reading a report with her name on it. And he'd just made a decision that would shatter the fragile independence she was clinging to. Because the child was his. And Kang Jun-suk protected what belonged to him. Whether she wanted his protection or not. 3 days passed. 3 days of Amara sitting in her apartment, rationing instant noodles and trying to figure out how to survive until the end of the month. 3 days of silence. And then her phone rang. Miss Okoye? The voice was professional, female, unfamiliar. This is Manager Choi's assistant from the Pearl Lounge. We need you to come in today to finalize your termination paperwork. Amara's stomach dropped. I already received my severance. There's additional documentation required. 2 p.m. Please don't be late. The line went dead. Amara stared at her phone. Something felt wrong. But she had no choice. If there was any chance of getting more money, any chance of negotiating, she had to take it. She couldn't afford pride anymore. The Pearl Lounge looked different in daylight. Less glamorous. More tired. The kind of place that only looked good in dim lighting and expensive liquor. Amara walked through the employee entrance, her heart pounding. The hallway was empty. Too empty. She should have turned around. But she kept walking. When she reached the main floor, she froze. The entire staff was there. Min-ji. The other servers. The bartenders. Manager Choi. Even some of the kitchen staff she barely knew. They were all standing in a loose circle near the bar, talking in low voices. Laughing. About her. She knew it instantly. Heard she's been going to different restaurants begging for work. Probably doesn't even know who the father is. I bet she tries to trap some poor guy with money. Amara's hands clenched into fists. She should leave. Walk out. Preserve what little dignity she had left. But Manager Choi had already seen her. "Ah, Miss Okoye." His smile was thin, cruel. Right on time. The room went quiet. Every eye turned to her. Amara lifted her chin and walked forward. She would not run. She would not give them the satisfaction. "You said there was paperwork," she said evenly. "Yes, well." Manager Choi exchanged glances with Minji. "We wanted to discuss your situation before you leave permanently." "My situation is none of your business." "It became our business when you showed up pregnant and unmarried, embarrassing this establishment," he said coldly. "We have a reputation to maintain." Minji stepped forward, arms crossed. "We just want to make sure you're not planning to cause trouble. You know, claiming someone here is the father. Trying to extort money." The implication was clear. The room waited. Amara's vision blurred with rage. "I would never." "Because if you do," Manager Choi interrupted, "we'll make sure every club, every restaurant, every business in Seoul knows exactly what kind of woman you are." The threat hung in the air like smoke. Amara opened her mouth to respond. And then the door opened. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Amara felt it before she saw him. That shift in the air. That sudden primal awareness that a predator had entered the space. Everyone turned. Kong Jun-suk stood in the doorway. He was dressed in all black, tailored suit, dark shirt, no tie. His expression was calm, almost bored. But his eyes were ice. Behind him stood two men. Silent. Waiting. Manager Choi went pale. Mr. Kong." He stumbled forward, bowing too quickly. "We weren't expecting. This is an honor." Jun-suk didn't acknowledge him. His eyes found Amara. Held her there. She couldn't breathe. What was he doing here? "You called her in," Jun-suk said quietly. "Not a question." Manager Choi stammered. "Yes, sir, just some paperwork, routine termination." "You humiliated her." Jun-suk's voice never rose. "Never needed to. 3 days ago. And again today." The room went deathly silent. Minji took a step back. Manager Choi's mouth opened and closed like a fish. I don't, sir, if this is about the termination, it was purely a business decision." "It was a mistake," Jun-suk said. He walked forward slowly, deliberately. Every step echoed in the silent room. He stopped directly in front of Amara. She couldn't move, couldn't think. Up close, she could see the barely controlled fury behind his calm exterior. The tension in his jaw. The way his hands were relaxed at his sides, not because he was calm, but because he didn't need to make fists to be dangerous. "Are you all right?" he asked her. His voice was so quiet only she could hear it. Amara's throat tightened. She managed a small nod. Something flickered in his expression. Then he turned to face the room. "That child she's carrying," Jun-suk said, his voice cutting through the silence like a blade, "is mine." The world stopped. Amara's heart slammed against her ribs. No, he couldn't. Around them, the staff stood frozen in shock. Manager Choi looked like he might faint. Minji's face had gone white. "The pregnancy," Jun-suk continued, his tone flat and absolute, "is my responsibility. The child is mine. She is under my protection. Anyone who speaks about her, harasses her, or interferes with her in any way answers to me personally." He let that sink in. "Do you understand?" The room erupted in frantic bowing. "Yes, sir. Of course, Mr. Kong. We had no idea." Jun-suk held up one hand. Silence. He turned to Manager Choi. "You're fired. Clear your office by tonight." But sir, I didn't know. You humiliated the mother of my child." Jun-suk's voice dropped to something lethal. "Be grateful that's all I'm taking from you." Manager Choi bowed so low his forehead nearly touched the floor. Jun-suk's eyes swept the room once more. "The rest of you will remember this moment. Because if I hear that any of you have spoken her name with anything less than respect, I will make sure you understand what a real mistake looks like." No one dared to breathe. Then Jun-suk turned back to Amara. Come with me. It wasn't a request. Amara's mind was screaming. She wanted to refuse. To demand answers. To ask him what the hell he thought he was doing. Claiming her, claiming the baby, claiming her entire life without asking. But she couldn't speak. Couldn't move. Jun-suk's hand settled on her lower back. Firm, possessive, burning through the fabric of her coat. Now, he said quietly. Her legs obeyed before her mind could catch up. She let him guide her toward the door. Let him walk her past the stunned staff, past Manager Choi, who looked like he might cry, past Min-ji, whose expression had gone from smug to terrified. The fresh air hit her like a slap. There was a car waiting. Black Mercedes. The door already open. Jun-suk gestured for her to get in. Amara finally found her voice. What did you just do? Her words came out strangled, raw. Jun-suk looked at her. Really looked at her. I protected what's mine, he said simply. I'm not yours. The child is. You don't even know. I know. His voice was quiet but absolute. I've always known. The words hit her like a punch to the chest. He knew. He'd known this whole time. Get in the car, Amara. Her name in his mouth felt like ownership. She hated it. She hated that her body responded to the sound of it. Hated that some broken, desperate part of her was relieved that she wasn't alone anymore. But more than anything, she hated that he'd just made a decision about her life, about her child, without asking. And if I refuse? She asked. Jun-suk stepped closer. Not threatening, but unmistakable. Then I'll have you carried, he said calmly. But you won't refuse. Because you're smart enough to know that you need me now. I don't need anyone. You don't have a job. You don't have money. You're 4 months pregnant in a city that just watched you get destroyed. His eyes held hers. You need me. You just don't want to admit it yet. Amara wanted to scream. She wanted to hit him. She wanted to tell him to go to hell. But he was right. And that was the worst part. She got in the car. Jun-suk slid in beside her. The door closed. The driver pulled away from the curb. The silence was suffocating. Where are you taking me? Amara asked finally. Somewhere safe. I want to go home. No. His voice was final. You don't live there anymore. Amara's head snapped toward him. You can't just. I already did. Jun-suk met her gaze, unflinching. Your things are being moved as we speak. You'll stay where I can protect you, where the child will be safe. You had no right. I had every right. His voice dropped lower, darker. That child is mine. Which means you're mine now too. And I protect what belongs to me. The car merged into traffic. Seoul blurred past the tinted windows. And Amara realized with cold, horrible clarity that her life was no longer her own. The penthouse was a cage made of glass and marble. Amara stood in the center of the living room, surrounded by floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked all of Seoul. The space was enormous, bigger than any apartment she'd ever imagined living in. White leather furniture. Imported art on the walls. A kitchen with appliances she didn't know how to use. It was beautiful. It was suffocating. Your bedroom is upstairs, Jun-suk said from behind her. His voice was matter-of-fact, like he was giving a hotel tour. The closet has been stocked. There's a doctor coming tomorrow morning for a checkup. Amara didn't turn around. I don't need a doctor. You haven't had prenatal care in 4 months. I couldn't afford it. You can now. She finally looked at him. He stood near the entrance, perfectly composed in his black suit, hands in his pockets. Like this was normal. Like he hadn't just appended her entire existence. I didn't ask for any of this, Amara said quietly. I know. Then why? Because you need it. Jun-suk's expression didn't change. And because that child needs a mother who's healthy and safe. I was managing fine. You were starving yourself to pay rent. The words hit like a slap. Amara's hands clenched at her sides. You were watching me. Yes. No apology. No shame. Just cold, simple truth. For how long? She demanded. 3 weeks. 3 weeks. He'd known she was pregnant for 3 weeks and said nothing. Done nothing. Just watched from the shadows while she struggled alone. Why didn't you say something sooner? Her voice shook with barely controlled rage. Jun-suk met her eyes. Because I needed to understand what kind of woman you were. And what did you decide? That you're stubborn, proud, and willing to sacrifice yourself for something you believe is worth protecting. He paused. Which means you'll do the same for that child. That makes you valuable. Valuable. Not worthy. Not important. Valuable. Like an asset. Amara turned away before he could see the hurt in her eyes. There are rules, Jun-suk said. Of course there were. You don't leave this building without security. You don't contact anyone from your previous life without clearing it with me first. You don't answer the door. You don't. I'm not a prisoner, Amara interrupted. No. You're protected. What's the difference? Jun-suk stepped closer. Not threatening, but unmistakable in his presence. The difference, he said quietly, is that prisoners want to leave. You don't have anywhere else to go. The truth of it burned. Amara wanted to argue. Wanted to tell him she'd find another job, another apartment, another life. But they both knew it was a lie. Seoul had chewed her up and spit her out. No one would hire a pregnant woman with no references. No landlord would rent to someone with no income. Jun-suk had given her a gilded cage. But at least it was shelter. How long? She asked finally. How long what? How long do I have to stay here? Jun-suk's expression was unreadable. Until the child is born. After that, we'll discuss arrangements. Arrangements. The word tasted bitter. You mean custody. I mean ensuring my child is raised properly. Our child. Something flickered in his eyes. Yes, our child. The words hung between them, heavy with implications neither was ready to address. Jun-suk moved toward the door. I'll have someone bring dinner. You should rest. Wait. He paused, hand on the doorknob. Do you? Amara's voice came out softer than she intended. Do you even want this baby? Jun-suk turned slightly. Not all the way. Just enough that she could see his profile. I don't know, he said honestly. But it exists. And it's mine. That's enough. Then he left. The lock clicked behind him. Amara stood alone in the beautiful prison and tried not to cry. The first night was the hardest. Amara explored the penthouse like a ghost haunting her own life. 2 bedrooms. 3 bathrooms. A study. A media room. Everything pristine and cold and empty. Her things had been moved, exactly as Jun-suk promised. Her clothes hung in a massive closet next to designer pieces she'd never asked for. Her toiletries arranged neatly in a bathroom with a tub big enough to swim in. Someone had unpacked her entire life and organized it like inventory. She hated it. But what she hated more was how comfortable the bed was. How the sheets smelled like expensive detergent. How her body sank into the mattress and for the first time in months, her back didn't ache. She hated that part of her was grateful. The next morning, the doctor arrived at exactly 9 a.m. Dr. Yoon was a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and professional efficiency. She examined Amara thoroughly, asked questions in perfect English, and showed no judgment whatsoever. Everything looks healthy, Dr. Yoon said, packing up her equipment. But you're underweight. We need to get more nutrients into you and the baby. I know, Amara said quietly. Dr. Yoon's expression softened. Mr. Kong has asked me to check on you weekly. If you need anything, anything at all, you can call me directly. She handed Amara a card. Day or night. After she left, Amara stared at the card. It had Dr. Yoon's number. And beneath it, in neat handwriting, "You're not alone anymore." Amara didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Days blurred together. Jun-suk came and went like a ghost. Sometimes she'd hear him in the early morning, leaving for whatever dark business consumed his days. Sometimes he'd return late at night, and she'd hear his footsteps in the hallway, pausing outside her door. He never knocked. She never opened it. They existed in the same space but different worlds. Meals appeared 3 times a day. A maid came twice a week. Security stood outside the building, invisible but omnipresent. Amara tried to establish some control over her new reality. She read. She walked the perimeter of the penthouse like an animal pacing its enclosure. She talked to the baby growing inside her, whispering promises she wasn't sure she could keep. And she tried to ignore the fact that Jun-suk was right. She did feel safer here. She hated him for that too. On the 5th day, something changed. Amara was sitting by the window, watching the city below, when she felt it again. That prickling sensation. Being watched. She stood quickly, scanning the windows of the surrounding buildings. Nothing obvious. But the feeling persisted, stronger than before. Someone was out there. And they weren't friendly. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Stay away from the windows. Her blood ran cold. Before she could respond, the door burst open. Jun-suk strode in, followed by 2 of his men. His expression was thunderous. "Are you hurt?" he demanded. "No, How did you know?" "Security alert. Someone's been surveilling the building." His eyes swept over her, assessing for damage. "Did you see anyone?" "No, but I felt." She stopped. "How is that possible? We're 20 floors up. Telephoto lens. Drone. Doesn't matter." Jun-suk pulled out his phone, typed something rapidly. "They know you're here now." "Who?" He didn't answer. Instead, he moved to the window and yanked the curtains closed with enough force that the rod shook. "From now on, you stay away from the windows. All of them." "Jun-suk, who's watching me?" He finally looked at her. And for the first time since she'd met him, she saw something other than cold control in his eyes. Fear. Not for himself. For her. "People who want to hurt me," he said quietly. "And now they know the best way to do that is through you." The words settled over her like ice water. This wasn't just protection. This was war. And she'd just become a target. That night, Jun-suk didn't leave. Amara heard him in the living room, making calls in rapid Korean. She caught fragments, threats, orders, contingencies. She sat on her bed, hand on her stomach, and realized the full weight of what he'd done. By claiming her publicly, he'd painted a target on her back. By bringing her into his world, he'd made her a weapon his enemies could use against him. Protection and possession weren't different at all. They were the same cage, just seen from different angles. Around midnight, she heard his footsteps in the hallway again. This time, they stopped outside her door. A long pause. Then, so quietly she almost missed it. "I'm sorry." The footsteps retreated. Amara stared at the closed door, her heart pounding. Kong Jun-suk didn't apologize. He didn't show weakness. He didn't feel regret. But he'd just done all 3. The package arrived on a Tuesday morning. Amara was having breakfast, toast and tea that she could actually keep down, when the building's head of security appeared at the penthouse door. His face was pale. "Miss Okoye, I need you to step away from the windows and go to your bedroom. Now." Something in his tone made her obey without question. She was halfway up the stairs when she heard Jun-suk's voice, low and lethal, coming from the entrance. "Who delivered it?" "Courier service. Fake credentials. We're tracking it now, but..." "Show me." Silence. Then, "Get her out of Seoul. Tonight." Amara's blood ran cold. She turned and walked back down the stairs, ignoring the security guard's protests. Jun-suk stood in the entryway, holding a small box. His expression was carved from stone, but his hands were shaking. "What is it?" Amara asked. He looked up. "Go back upstairs." "What's in the box?" "Amara, show me." Jun-suk's jaw tightened. Then slowly, he tilted the box so she could see inside. A single photograph. Of her. Standing by the window yesterday, hand on her stomach, silhouetted against the Seoul skyline. The caption scrawled across the bottom in red ink. "How much is she worth to you?" Amara's knees went weak. Jun-suk was beside her instantly, steadying her with a hand on her elbow. "Sit down," he ordered. "They were that close?" Her voice came out strangled. "Telephoto lens. They could have been blocks away. But they know I'm pregnant. They know. They know your leverage." Jun-suk's voice was flat, controlled. But beneath it, she heard the fury. "Which means you're not safe here anymore. You said this place was secure. I was wrong." The admission hung in the air. Kang Jun-suk didn't make mistakes. Didn't admit weakness. Didn't let anything crack the armor of absolute control he wore. But he'd just done all three in under a minute. "Who are they?" Amara asked. Jun-suk set the box down carefully, like it might explode. "The Choi family. A rival organization. We've been at war for 2 years over territory in Busan. And now they know about me." "Yes. Because you claimed me publicly." His eyes met hers. "Yes." Amara wanted to scream. Wanted to rage at him for dragging her into his nightmare. But she was too terrified. "What do they want?" she whispered. Jun-suk's expression darkened. "To hurt me. And they've just figured out the most efficient way to do it." Within an hour, the penthouse was crawling with security. 4 men swept every room. Another team checked the building's perimeter. Jun-suk stood in the center of it all, issuing orders in rapid Korean, his phone pressed to his ear. Amara watched from the stairs, feeling like a stranger in someone else's crisis. This was his world. Violence. Threats. Strategic warfare over territory and power. And she was just collateral damage. Jun-suk ended his call and turned to her. "Pack a bag. Just essentials." "Where are we going?" "A safe house outside the city. It's remote. Guarded. No one knows about it except my inner circle." "For how long?" "Until I eliminate the threat." The casual way he said eliminate made her stomach turn. "You mean kill them," Amara said quietly. Jun-suk didn't flinch. "If necessary. And if that makes things worse. If their family retaliates. Then I'll handle that too. By killing more people. By protecting you." His voice dropped. "I don't care how many people I have to bury to keep you safe. Do you understand that?" The intensity in his eyes was terrifying. Because he meant it. Every word. Amara packed in silence. Her hands shook as she folded clothes, grabbed toiletries, tried to figure out what essentials meant when your entire life had become a hostage situation. She heard footsteps behind her. Jun-suk stood in the doorway, watching. "I didn't ask for this," Amara said without turning around. "I know. I didn't ask to be your weakness." Silence. Then, "You're not my weakness." Amara turned. "That's not what the photograph says." Jun-suk stepped into the room. "The photograph says my enemies are desperate. Which means I'm winning. Winning." She laughed bitterly. "Is that what this is to you? A game?" "No." His voice was quiet but absolute. "This is survival. Mine. Yours. The child's. And in my world, there are only 2 outcomes. You survive or you don't. I choose survival. Even if it means more violence. Especially then." Amara searched his face, looking for something human beneath the cold calculation. Some hint of regret or doubt. She found nothing. "You're a monster," she whispered. "Yes," Jun-suk said simply. "But I'm your monster now. And that means you're the safest person in Seoul." They left at midnight. 2 cars. Heavy security. Jun-suk beside her in the back seat, silent and watchful as the city lights faded behind them. Amara stared out the window, one hand on her stomach. The baby was moving now. Small flutters that felt like butterfly wings. A life that depended on her. A life that had made her a target. "I'm sorry," Jun-suk said suddenly. Amara looked at him, startled. He was staring straight ahead, his profile sharp in the passing streetlights. For what? She asked. For not understanding what claiming you would cost. He paused. I thought I could protect you through power alone. I was wrong. So what now? Now I adapt. How? Junsuk finally looked at her. By becoming the kind of man who can keep you alive. Even if it means becoming more of a monster than I already am. The words should have terrified her. Instead, something in Amara's chest twisted. Because she heard what he wasn't saying. He was willing to destroy himself to protect her. And that was somehow more frightening than the threats. The safe house was a compound in the mountains. High walls. Armed guards. Surveillance everywhere. A beautiful prison in a different location. Junsuk walked her inside personally. The interior was surprisingly warm. Wood floors, comfortable furniture, a kitchen that actually looked lived in. You'll be safe here, he said. Will you stay? The question slipped out before she could stop it. Junsuk hesitated. I have to go back to Seoul. Handle the Choi family. Handle them how? However necessary. Amara grabbed his arm. Don't. He looked down at her hand, then up at her face. Don't what? Don't become more of a monster for me. I'm not worth that. Something flickered in his expression. Something that might have been pain. You're carrying my child, he said quietly. That makes you worth everything. He pulled away gently and walked toward the door. Junsuk. He stopped. What if? Amara's voice shook. What if protecting me means changing who you are instead of becoming more of what you already are? He stood there for a long moment, back to her, hand on the doorframe. I don't know how to do that, he said finally. Then learn. Junsuk turned. Really looked at her. You think I can change? There was something raw in his voice. Something almost hopeful. I think you have to, Amara said. Because this child deserves a father, not a monster. And I deserve. She paused. I deserve a choice, not a cage. The words hung between them. Junsuk's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression hardened. The Choi family just sent another message, he said. They're demanding a meeting. What kind of meeting? The kind that ends with someone dead. He looked at her one more time. Stay here. Don't leave. I'll be back in 3 days. And if you're not? Junsuk's smile was cold. Then my second-in-command has instructions to keep you safe. Forever, if necessary. He left. The door locked behind him. Amara stood in the empty safe house, hand on her stomach, and wondered if she'd just fallen in love with a man who was incapable of being saved. Or if maybe, just maybe, she was the one thing that could finally change him. Junsuk returned on the second day. Not the third, like he'd promised. The second. Amara was in the kitchen when she heard the security gate open. Her heart jumped into her throat. She grabbed the closest thing that could be a weapon, a ceramic vase, and positioned herself behind the door. The lock clicked. The door opened. Junsuk walked in, and Amara nearly dropped the vase. He was covered in blood. Not his own, she realized with a sickening jolt. The blood was splattered across his white shirt, dried dark on his hands, flecked across his jaw. He looked like death. What did you do? The words came out as a whisper. Junsuk closed the door behind him, locked it with methodical precision. What I had to. The Choi family. Won't be a problem anymore. The casual way he said it made her stomach turn. You killed them. I eliminated the threat. He moved past her toward the bathroom. There's a difference. No, there isn't. Amara followed him, anger overriding fear. You murdered people. Junsuk stopped in the bathroom doorway. Turned slowly. They sent you a photograph with a threat on it, he said quietly. They were planning to kidnap you, torture you, use you to force my surrender. And when I refused, because I would have refused, they were going to kill you and send me pieces of you until I complied. The words hit like physical blows. How do you know that? Amara demanded. Because they told me. Jun-suk's eyes were empty. During the meeting, before I put bullets in their heads. Amara's vision blurred. She'd known what he was. She'd known from the beginning. But knowing and seeing were different things. "Get out," she said. Jun-suk didn't move. "Amara, get out of my sight. Now." For a long moment, he just stared at her. Then he turned and walked into the bathroom, closing the door behind him. Amara heard the shower start. She sank onto the couch, hand pressed to her stomach, and tried not to vomit. 20 minutes later, Jun-suk emerged. Clean. Changed into fresh clothes. The blood washed away like it had never existed. But Amara could still see it. Would always see it. He stood in the living room, watching her with that unreadable expression he wore like armor. "I did what I had to do to keep you safe," he said. "I didn't ask you to kill for me. You didn't have to ask. You're carrying my child. That's enough. Stop." Amara stood up, fury burning through the nausea. "Stop acting like this child gives you ownership over my life. Over my choices. Over my body. I'm not." "Yes, you are." Her voice rose. "You moved me without asking. You made decisions about my medical care without consulting me. You killed people and came back here covered in their blood like it's normal. Like I should just accept it because you've decided I'm yours." Jun-suk's jaw tightened. "I'm protecting you." "No. You're controlling me. There's a difference." "Is there?" He stepped closer. "Because from where I'm standing, protection and control are the same thing. I keep you safe by controlling your environment, your access, your exposure to danger." "That's not protection," Amara said. "That's possession. Call it whatever you want. It keeps you alive. I'd rather be free." The words hung in the air like a grenade. Jun-suk went very still. "Free," he repeated quietly. "You want to be free?" "Yes." "To do what? Go back to Seoul? Get another job serving drinks to men who look at you like you're nothing? Live in an apartment that's falling apart while you raise my child alone?" "If that's my choice, then yes." "That's not a choice," Jun-suk said, his voice hardening. "That's suicide. And I won't allow it. You don't get to allow me anything." Amara's hands clenched into fists. "I'm not your possession. I'm not your property. I'm a person, and you're treating me like what? Like I'm something to be managed." Jun-suk's expression didn't change. "You are being managed. Because you're incapable of understanding the danger you're in." The condescension in his tone was the final straw. Amara crossed the distance between them in 3 strides and shoved him hard in the chest. He barely moved. But his eyes widened. "Don't you dare talk to me like I'm stupid," she said, her voice shaking with rage. "I survived 3 years in a city that hated me. I worked jobs that broke me down every single day. I sent money home to my family while I ate instant noodles for dinner. I found out I was pregnant and decided to keep this baby knowing it would destroy everything I'd built. Don't you dare tell me I don't understand survival." Jun-suk stared at her. For the first time since she'd met him, he looked genuinely shocked. "You have no idea what I've endured," Amara continued, her voice breaking. "You think you're protecting me, but all you're doing is taking away the one thing I have left. My dignity. You've stripped me of my choices, my autonomy, myself. And now you stand here covered in blood and expect me to be grateful." "I expect you to be alive," Jun-suk said roughly. "At what cost?" Amara demanded. "At the cost of who I am. At the cost of becoming someone who accepts murder as protection. At the cost of raising this child in a world where violence is the answer to everything. It's the only answer I have." The words exploded out of him. Jun-suk's composure cracked. His hands clenched at his sides. His breathing was uneven. "It's the only answer I've ever had," he said, quieter now. "Violence. Control. Power. That's how I survived. That's how I built everything. I don't know how to protect you any other way." Amara saw it then. The truth he'd been hiding beneath all that cold control. He was terrified. not of his enemies, not of losing power, of failing her. Then learn, Amara said softly. Jun-suk's eyes met hers. I don't know how. Yes, you do. She took a breath. You apologize to me. Twice. Men like you don't apologize. Which means you're already changing, you just don't want to admit it. Changing won't keep you safe. Maybe not. But being a monster won't keep you human. Amara stepped closer. And this child needs a father who's human. Not a weapon. Jun-suk's jaw worked. What if I can't be both? What if protecting you and being human are mutually exclusive? Then you'll have to choose. That's not a choice. That's an ultimatum. Yes, Amara said. It is. The silence stretched between them, heavy and charged. Jun-suk looked at her like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve. Like she'd just spoken a language he'd never heard before. No one has ever. He stopped. Started again. No one has ever demanded I change. Not and lived. I'm not afraid of you, Amara said. You should be. But I'm not. She placed her hand on her stomach. And neither is this child. Which means you have a choice to make. You can be the monster everyone expects. Or you can be the man I saw that night. The one who looked at me like I mattered. Jun-suk's expression cracked. Just for a second, she saw the vulnerability beneath. What if that man doesn't exist anymore? He asked quietly. Then maybe it's time to find him again. Jun-suk turned away, hands in his pockets, shoulders tight. You don't understand what you're asking, he said. Yes, I do. I'm asking you to be better. For me. For this child. For yourself. And if I can't... Amara's voice was steady. Then I'll leave. The moment I can, I'll take this child and disappear. And you'll spend the rest of your life wondering if the power was worth it. Jun-suk spun around. You can't leave. It's not safe. Then make it safe without making me a prisoner. How? I don't know, Amara admitted. But you're supposed to be the smartest, most dangerous man in Seoul. Figure it out. Jun-suk stared at her. And then, impossibly, the corner of his mouth twitched. Not quite a smile. But close. You're insane, he said. I'm pregnant with your child while living in a safe house in the mountains because rival gangsters want to kill me, Amara shot back. Insane is relative. This time, he did smile. Small. Brief. But real. No one has ever talked to me the way you do, he said. Good. You needed it. Jun-suk shook his head slowly, something like wonder in his expression. You're either the bravest woman I've ever met, he said quietly, or the most foolish. Maybe I'm both. He studied her for a long moment. Then he did something she never expected. He bowed his head. Just slightly. Just enough to be meaningful. I'll try, he said. I don't know if I can change. But I'll try. It wasn't a promise. It wasn't a guarantee. But it was the first honest thing he'd said to her since this whole nightmare began. Amara felt her anger drain away, replaced by something more dangerous. Hope. That's all I'm asking, she said softly. Jun-suk looked up, met her eyes. And for the first time, Amara wondered if maybe, just maybe, the monster could learn to be a man. It was 3 a.m. when Amara found him on the balcony. She'd woken to use the bathroom. The baby pressing on her bladder made sleep a distant memory, and noticed the light on downstairs. Jun-suk stood at the railing, still fully dressed, staring out at the dark mountains. He didn't turn when she opened the door. You should be sleeping, he said quietly. So should you. I don't sleep much. Amara wrapped her cardigan tighter against the cold night air and moved to stand beside him. Not too close. But close enough. Nightmares? She asked. Jun-suk's jaw tightened. Memories. What's the difference? He glanced at her. Something flickered in his expression. One you can wake up from. They stood in silence for a moment, the mountain wind rustling through the trees below. Can I ask you something? Amara said finally. You're going to anyway. Fair point. That night, she began carefully. 4 months ago. At the club. Why me? Jun-suk's hands tightened on the railing. You want the truth? Yes. Because you looked at me like I was human. The simplicity of it stunned her. That's it? Amara asked. That's the only reason? That's everything. Jun-suk's voice was quiet. Do you know how many people I interact with every day? Dozens. Hundreds. And every single one of them looks at me with fear, greed, or calculation. You looked at me with... He paused. Nothing. Just basic decency. Like I was just another customer. You were just another customer. No. He turned to face her. I was the man who controls half of Seoul's underground. I was the monster people whisper about. I was the reason grown men check over their shoulders. But you didn't know that. Or you didn't care. And for one night, I got to be normal, Amara finished. Yes. She understood then. The loneliness behind the power. The isolation that came with being feared. So why did you leave? She asked. Why did you say it never happened? Jun-suk looked away. Because it couldn't happen again. Why not? Because I would have ruined you. The words hung in the cold air. Amara's breath caught. What do you mean? Jun-suk's expression hardened. You want the truth? The real truth about why I never came back for you? Yes. He took a breath. And for the first time since she'd met him, she saw him hesitate. Saw him struggle with whether to reveal something. Then he spoke. My father died when I was 12. Amara went very still. Jun-suk's voice was flat, emotionless. The voice of someone recounting facts instead of trauma. He wasn't a good man. He ran a small gang in Busan. Loan sharking, protection rackets, the usual. But he had a weakness. What kind of weakness? A woman. Jun-suk's hands clenched on the railing. Her name was Min-seo. She worked at a restaurant he collected from. She was kind, gentle, everything he wasn't. He fell in love with her. Amara's chest tightened. She knew where this was going. His enemies found out, Jun-suk continued. Used her to get to him. They took her. Tortured her. Sent him pieces of her jewelry every day for a week. By the time he agreed to their terms, she was already dead. Jun-suk. He went to the exchange anyway. Walked into their trap knowing he wouldn't walk out. Because he had nothing left to lose. Jun-suk's voice dropped. They shot him in the street like a dog. I watched from across the road. 12 years old, and I watched my father die because he loved someone. Amara's eyes burned. The lesson was clear, Jun-suk said. Love is a weapon. Caring about someone makes you weak. Vulnerable. And in this world, vulnerability gets you killed. So you decided never to care about anyone, Amara said softly. I decided to be smarter than my father. Stronger. I built an empire on the principle that nothing, no one, could ever be used against me. He finally looked at her. And then I met you. Her breath caught. I knew the moment I left that club that I'd made a mistake, Jun-suk said. Not because of what happened between us, but because I wanted to go back. I wanted to see you again. To talk to you. He stopped. That want was dangerous. So I buried it. For 4 months, Amara whispered. Yes. Until you found out I was pregnant. Jun-suk nodded slowly. I told myself it changed nothing. That I could protect the child without getting involved. Without caring. But then I saw them humiliate you. His voice went hard. I sat in that car and watched you walk out of that building with your head high and your dignity intact, and I realized something. What? That you were stronger than my father ever was. Stronger than me. Jun-suk's eyes held hers. And that if anyone was going to be worth breaking my own rules for, it would be you. Amara's heart was pounding so hard she could barely breathe. So you claimed me, she said. I claimed you. Jun-suk's expression was raw. Not because I knew how to protect you. but because I couldn't stand the thought of anyone else hurting you, even if it meant making you a target. That's why you've been so controlling. Yes. He looked away. I don't know how to care about someone without trying to control everything about their environment. It's all I know. Control equals safety. At least, it always has before. But it doesn't work with me, Amara said quietly. No, it doesn't. A bitter smile crossed his face. You keep demanding I give you freedom, choice, autonomy, all the things that make you vulnerable, all the things that could get you killed, or all the things that make me human. Junsuk was silent for a long moment. I watched my father's humanity destroy him, he said finally. I swore I'd never make the same mistake. And now here I am, standing on a balcony in the middle of the night, telling the mother of my child secrets I've never told anyone. Because somehow, you make me want to be human again. Amara's throat tightened. Is that such a bad thing? I don't know yet. Junsuk turned to face her fully. All I know is that you scare me more than any enemy I've ever faced. Why? Because I care what happens to you. And caring is the one vulnerability I can't eliminate. The confession hung between them. Amara saw him then. Really saw him. Not the monster. Not the Mafia boss. Not the cold, calculating killer. Just a man who'd spent his entire life building walls to protect himself from the same fate that killed his father. And she was the first person who'd made him want to tear those walls down. Your father loved someone and it destroyed him, Amara said softly. But maybe the lesson isn't that love makes you weak. Maybe it's that fear makes you vulnerable. Junsuk's brow furrowed. What do you mean? Your father died because he was afraid of losing her. He made decisions out of fear instead of strength. He walked into a trap because he couldn't imagine living without her. Amara stepped closer. But you're not your father. You're stronger, smarter, and you don't have to choose between love and survival. You just have to stop being afraid. Junsuk stared at her. You make it sound simple, he said. It's not simple, but it's possible. He shook his head slowly. You have no idea what you're asking me to risk. Yes, I do. You're risking the same thing I am. Amara placed her hand on her stomach. Everything. Junsuk's eyes dropped to her hand, to the child growing between them. When he looked up again, something had shifted in his expression. I don't know how to do this, he said quietly. Do what? Be what you need me to be. Be a father. Be someone worth. He stopped. I don't know how to be anything other than what I am. Then start small, Amara said. Start by telling me the truth. Not the version you think I want to hear. The real truth. Junsuk took a breath. I'm terrified, he said. Of losing you. Of failing this child. Of becoming my father. Of being so consumed by trying to keep you safe that I destroy everything in the process. His voice dropped to barely a whisper. And I'm terrified that you'll figure out I'm not worth saving. The vulnerability in those words nearly broke her. Amara reached out, slowly, giving him time to pull away, and took his hand. He went completely still. You're already worth saving, she said softly. You just have to believe it. Junsuk looked down at their joined hands like he'd never seen anything like it before. How? He asked. How do I believe that? You start by letting someone see you. The real you. Not the monster everyone expects. The man underneath. What if there's no difference? There is. I've seen him. Amara squeezed his hand. He's standing right here. Scared. Vulnerable. Human. And he's trying so hard to be better. Junsuk's fingers tightened around hers. For a long moment, they just stood there. Two broken people from opposite worlds, connected by a child neither had planned for. I don't deserve you, Junsuk said finally. Maybe not. But you have me anyway. Something in his expression cracked. Softened. Became almost tender. What happens now? He asked. Amara smiled. Now you keep your promise. You try to change. And I'll be here to remind you why it matters. Jun-suk pulled her hand closer, looked at her like she was something precious and terrifying all at once. I can't promise I won't fail, he said. I'm not asking for perfect. I'm asking for honest. He nodded slowly. And then, so carefully it made her heart ache, he brought her hand to his lips and kissed her knuckles. It was the gentlest thing he'd ever done. Thank you, he whispered against her skin, for seeing me. The attack came on a Thursday morning. Amara was in the safe house garden, a small enclosed space with high walls and armed guards at every corner. Dr. Yoon had said fresh air was important for the baby, and Jun-suk had reluctantly agreed to 15 minutes of supervised outdoor time. She was admiring the late winter flowers, hand on her swelling stomach, when the first gunshot shattered the silence. The guard to her left dropped. Amara's scream caught in her throat. Everything happened at once. More gunfire. Shouting in Korean. The second guard grabbing her arm and dragging her toward the house. Move! Now! She ran. Or tried to. 5 months pregnant and terrified, her body wouldn't cooperate. Her foot caught on the stone path and she went down hard, palms scraping against gravel. The guard yanked her up. We have to. His head snapped back. Blood sprayed across her face. He collapsed. Amara's vision tunneled. Her ears rang. The world became slow-motion horror. A man in black appeared at the garden gate. Not security. Not one of Jun-suk's men. Enemy. He raised his gun. Pointed it directly at her stomach. Amara's hands went to her belly instinctively, uselessly, as if she could shield the baby with her palms. The man smiled. Jun-suk should have known better than to leave you unguarded, he said in accented English. Please, Amara whispered. Please, the baby. The baby is exactly why you're valuable. He stepped closer. Amara scrambled backward, her hands slipping on blood-slicked stone. This was it. This was how she died. How her child died. The man's finger tightened on the trigger. And then his chest exploded. Jun-suk stood in the doorway, gun raised, expression absolutely murderous. He fired twice more. The man dropped. For a heartbeat, everything was silent. Then Jun-suk was moving, crossing the distance to Amara in seconds. He dropped to his knees beside her, hands frantically checking for injuries. Are you hurt? Did he touch you? The baby. I'm okay, Amara managed. I fell, but... Jun-suk's hands stilled on her stomach. His eyes met hers. And she saw something she'd never seen before. Raw, absolute terror. You're bleeding, he said hoarsely. Amara looked down. Her palms were scraped, bleeding from the fall. Nothing serious. But Jun-suk was staring at the blood like it was a death sentence. It's just my hands, she said quickly. Jun-suk, I'm fine. The baby's fine. He didn't seem to hear her. He gathered her into his arms with terrifying gentleness and stood, carrying her toward the house. Lockdown protocol, he barked at someone. No one in or out. I want every man we have on this property in 5 minutes. And get Dr. Yoon here. Now. His voice was steady, but his hands were shaking. Dr. Yoon arrived within 20 minutes. She examined Amara thoroughly while Jun-suk paced the room like a caged animal. She's fine, Dr. Yoon said finally. Minor scrapes. No signs of trauma to the pregnancy. The baby's heartbeat is strong. Jun-suk stopped pacing. You're sure? Positive. But she needs rest. And she's in mild shock. Keep her warm and calm. After Dr. Yoon left, Jun-suk stood at the window, back to Amara, shoulders rigid. The silence stretched. Jun-suk. This is my fault. His voice was barely audible. Amara sat up carefully. No, it's not. You had guards posted. You took precautions. It wasn't enough. He turned. His expression was devastated. I almost lost you. Both of you. Because I thought a safe house and armed guards would be sufficient. Because I underestimated how far they'd go. Who were they? What's left of the Choi family? Cousins. Extended network. I thought I'd eliminated the threat. His hands clenched into fists. I was wrong. Amara saw the war happening behind his eyes. The calculation. The fury. The need for revenge. What are you going to do? She asked quietly. Junsook's expression went cold. What I should have done from the beginning. Complete elimination. Every branch of their family. Every associate. Every person who's ever worked for them. I'm going to burn their entire organization to the ground and salt the earth. The violence in his voice should have terrified her. Instead, Amara felt something else. Clarity. And then what? She asked. Junsook blinked. What? After you destroy them. After you kill everyone connected to this threat. What happens then? She stood slowly, moving toward him. Another enemy emerges. Another threat. Another reason to shed more blood. When does it end? It ends when you're safe. I'll never be safe in your world. You know that. Amara stopped in front of him. As long as you're running this empire, as long as you're the most feared man in Seoul, there will always be someone trying to hurt you through me. Through our child. Junsook's jaw tightened. What are you saying? I'm saying you have a choice to make. There is no choice. Yes, there is. Amara's voice was steady. You can keep being who you are. Keep fighting these wars. Keep building this empire. And watch as every day becomes a battle to keep us alive. Or, she took a breath. Or you walk away. The words hung in the air like a bomb. Junsook stared at her. Walk away. Yes. From everything. The organization. The territory. The power. Yes. You have no idea what you're asking. His voice rose. I built this empire from nothing. I crawled through blood and violence to get here. I can't just. You can. Amara grabbed his hands. Junsook, listen to me. What good is an empire if it costs you everything that matters? What good is power if the people you love are constantly in danger because of it? I don't know how to be anything else. Then learn. We'll figure it out together. Junsook pulled his hands away, turning back to the window. It's not that simple. You don't just walk away from this life. My enemies won't let me. The people under me won't accept it. The entire structure would collapse. So let it collapse. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. Amara's voice hardened. I understand that you're so addicted to control that you'd rather risk our lives than admit you might be wrong. I understand that you'd rather be a monster with power than a man with a family. Junsook spun around. That's not fair. None of this is fair. Tears burned Amara's eyes. I didn't ask to fall for a mafia boss. I didn't ask to be hunted. I didn't ask to watch a man die in front of me while someone pointed a gun at my stomach. But here we are. And you have to decide what matters more, your empire or your child. I can have both. No, you can't. Amara's voice broke. Today proved that. You can't protect us and maintain this life. So choose. Junsook looked like she'd struck him. You're asking me to choose between everything I've built and us. Yes, I am. Amara wiped her eyes. Because I won't raise this child in constant fear. I won't spend every day wondering if today's the day someone succeeds in killing us. And I won't watch you destroy yourself trying to hold on to power that's already destroying you. Amara, choose, Junsook. The silence was deafening. Junsook stood frozen, his mind clearly racing through calculations, consequences, contingencies. Everything he'd been taught said walking away was weakness. Everything he'd built said power was survival. But Amara, stubborn, fearless Amara, was asking him to trust in something he'd never believed in. Love over power. Family over empire. Humanity over control. If I walk away, he said finally, there will be consequences. My enemies will see it as weakness. Some of my own men might turn. The transition will be violent. More violent than today? He flinched. If I do this, Jun-suk continued, if I dismantle everything, we'll have to disappear. Leave Seoul. Maybe leave Korea entirely. Start over with nothing. I've started over with nothing before, Amara said softly. It's terrifying. But it's possible. Jun-suk's eyes searched her face. You'd do that? Give up any chance of going home? Of seeing your family? They'll understand. Eventually. She placed her hand on her stomach. This is my family now. You and this baby. If leaving Korea is what it takes to keep us safe, then we leave. Jun-suk was quiet for a long moment. Then he crossed the room and pulled her into his arms. Held her like she was the only thing keeping him anchored to the earth. I don't know if I can do this, he whispered against her hair. Yes, you can. I'm terrified. So am I. He pulled back to look at her. You're not scared of anything. I'm scared of losing you, Amara admitted. Not to violence, but to the darkness that comes with this life. I'm scared that if you keep choosing power over us, there won't be anything left of the man I. She stopped. Jun-suk's eyes widened. The man you what? Amara's heart pounded. But she'd come this far. The man I'm falling in love with, she finished quietly. Jun-suk went completely still. Say that again, he whispered. I'm falling in love with you. The real you, not the monster. The man who's trying so hard to be better. The man who kissed my hand on a balcony and told me his deepest secrets. The man who's terrified of being his father but brave enough to try anyway. Jun-suk's hands came up to cup her face. I don't deserve that, he said. Probably not. But you have it anyway. His thumb traced her cheekbone. You're the bravest person I've ever met. Then be brave with me. Choose us. Choose a different life. Jun-suk closed his eyes. And when he opened them again, something had shifted. Resolved. Okay, he said. Amara's breath caught. Okay. I choose you. Both of you. His voice was firm. Whatever it takes. However long it takes. I'll dismantle the empire. I'll walk away. I'll disappear with you if that's what's required. Jun-suk. But I need time. A few weeks. Maybe a month. To ensure the transition doesn't result in a war that follows us. His eyes held hers. Can you give me that? Amara nodded, tears streaming down her face. Yes. Jun-suk pulled her close again, resting his forehead against hers. I'm going to be terrible at normal life, he murmured. I know. I don't know how to be anything other than what I am. We'll figure it out together. He kissed her then. Soft. Gentle. Full of promise and fear and desperate hope. When they pulled apart, Jun-suk was smiling. Actually smiling. You really do make me want to be better, he said. Good. Because this baby's going to need a father who knows how to change diapers, not eliminate threats. Jun-suk laughed. A real laugh that sounded almost surprised. For the first time since Amara had met him, he looked free. The message arrived 3 days after the attack. Jun-suk was in Seoul, handling the transfer of his territories. Amara was at the safe house under triple security, counting down the days until they could leave this life behind. She was reading when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't open it. But something made her click. A video file. Amara's heart sank as she pressed play. The footage was grainy, shot from a distance. But clear enough. Jun-suk. In a warehouse. Surrounded by bodies. Blood on his hands. Blood on his clothes. Blood everywhere. And his expression. Cold. Empty. Merciless. This wasn't the man who'd kissed her forehead this morning before leaving. This wasn't the man who'd promised to change. This was the monster. The video ended. A text appeared. This is who he really is. This is who your child's father will always be. You can't save him. But you can save yourself. Leave now, or watch him destroy you both. Amara's hands shook. She knew it was manipulation. Knew it was his enemies trying to drive a wedge between them. But the video was real. The bodies were real, and the part of her that had always known Jun-suk couldn't completely change whispered, "What if they're right?" When Jun-suk returned that night, Amara was waiting. He walked in looking exhausted, suit jacket slung over his shoulder, tie loosened. "Hey," he said softly. "How are you feeling? Is the baby? I got a message today." Jun-suk went still. "What kind of message?" Amara handed him her phone. She watched his face as he played the video, watched the muscle in his jaw tick, watched his expression harden into something unreadable. "When was this?" she asked quietly. 2 days ago. You said you were handling the transition, that you were negotiating." "I was." Jun-suk's voice was flat. "This was part of the negotiation. Killing people, eliminating obstacles." He handed back her phone. "There were men who refused to accept the transition, who threatened to start a war the moment I stepped down. I dealt with them, by murdering them, by ensuring they couldn't hurt you." Amara stood up, hand on her stomach. "You promised you were changing. I am changing, but I can't change the fact that some problems require permanent solutions." Jun-suk stepped closer. "Amara, those men would have come after you, after our child. I did what was necessary. You always do." Her voice cracked. "That's the problem. In your world, violence is always necessary. What did you want me to do? Let them live so they could hunt us down later? I wanted you to find another way." "There is no other way." Jun-suk's control slipped. "You think I can just walk away and everyone will let me go peacefully? You think I can negotiate with people who've spent years trying to kill me? This is the reality, Amara. This is what leaving looks like. Blood and violence and hard choices. Then maybe we can't leave." The words came out as a whisper. "Maybe this was a mistake." Jun-suk's expression shattered. "What? Maybe you were right. Maybe you can't change. Maybe this is who you'll always be." "You don't mean that." "Don't I?" Amara's eyes burned. "I just watched you execute people. And you're standing here defending it like it's normal. Like it's justified. Like I should just accept it. It is justified when it protects you. I don't want protection that costs lives." Her voice broke. "I don't want to raise a child who thinks violence is the solution to every problem. I don't want to spend the rest of my life wondering which version of you will walk through that door, the man I love or the monster in that video." Jun-suk looked like she'd stabbed him. "They're the same person," he said quietly. "I know. That's what scares me." The silence was suffocating. Jun-suk walked to the window, hands in his pockets, shoulders rigid. "What do you want from me?" he asked finally. "I want you to be someone you can't be." "Then what do we do?" Amara took a shaking breath. I think I need to leave." Jun-suk spun around. "No. Jun-suk. No. We talked about this. We made a plan. You said we'd figure it out together. That was before I saw that video. Before I understood what transitioning out actually means." Amara wrapped her arms around herself. "I can't do this. I can't watch you kill people and pretend it's for my own good. I can't raise a child in this world." "So you're just going to run?" "I'm going to protect our baby the only way I know how. By getting as far away from this life as possible." "You think leaving me will keep you safe?" Jun-suk's voice rose. "My enemies already know about you. They've already targeted you. Running won't change that. Maybe not. But at least I won't be complicit in more death." The words hit like a physical blow. Jun-suk's hands clenched at his sides. "You think I want this? You think I enjoy what I have to do? I think you're too good at it to ever really stop. That's not fair. Life isn't fair." Amara's voice cracked. "I fell in love with a man who promised to change, who said he'd choose us over his empire. But the first real test and you went right back to solving problems with bullets. What happens next month? Next year? When our child asks why daddy has to leave in the middle of the night to handle business. I'm doing this for our child. No, you're doing this because it's all you know. Tears streamed down Amara's face. And I can't watch you teach our baby that this is normal. That this is love. Jun-suk looked devastated. What do you want me to do? Turn back time. Make different choices. I want you to let me go. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Jun-suk's expression went blank. You're serious? Yes. You're going to leave. Take my child. Disappear. I'm going to protect our child from a world that will destroy them. From me, you mean? His voice was hollow. You're protecting our child from me. Amara couldn't deny it. Jun-suk turned away, shoulders shaking. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Jun-suk's voice came, barely audible. If that's what you need to do, I won't stop you. Amara's heart cracked. What? I won't force you to stay. I won't hunt you down. I won't use my resources to track you. He still wouldn't look at her. You want to leave? Leave. Jun-suk. But understand this. Finally, he turned. His eyes were red. I love you. I love that child. And every decision I've made, every terrible, violent thing I've done, has been to keep you both safe. If you think leaving is safer, then go. But know that I'll spend the rest of my life wondering if I could have been better. If I could have changed fast enough. If I could have been the man you needed instead of the monster I am. Amara's chest constricted. I'll arrange transport, Jun-suk continued, his voice mechanical. Money. Documentation. Everything you need to start over. You'll be financially secure. Protected from a distance. The child will want for nothing. Except a father. Except a father who knows how to be more than a killer. His smile was broken. Maybe that's for the best. Amara wanted to take it back. Wanted to tell him she was wrong, that she was scared, that she didn't really want to leave. But she looked at his hands, the same hands that had held her so gently, that had killed men 2 days ago, and she couldn't. When? She whispered. Tomorrow. If you're sure. I'm not sure about anything. But you're still leaving. Amara nodded, tears blurring her vision. Jun-suk walked to her slowly. Stopped in front of her. Then he did something that broke her completely. He knelt. Pressed his forehead to her stomach. I'm sorry, he whispered to the baby. I'm sorry I couldn't be better for you. I'm sorry your father is a monster who doesn't know how to love without destroying. I'm sorry. His voice broke. Amara's hands went to his hair, fingers threading through it. She wanted to pull him up. Wanted to tell him he was wrong. But she couldn't. Because part of her believed he was right. Jun-suk stood up. Wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. I'll sleep in the other room tonight, he said. Give you space to pack. He walked past her. Stopped at the door. For what it's worth, he said without turning around. You made me want to be human again. Even if I failed. That's more than anyone else has ever done. Then he left. Amara stood alone in the empty room, hand on her stomach, and wondered if she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life. The next morning, everything was ready. A car. A driver. Documents with a new identity. Enough money to live comfortably for years. Jun-suk had arranged everything. He stood in the driveway as Amara walked toward the car, her single bag in hand. They didn't speak. What was left to say? Amara reached the car door. The driver opened it. She hesitated. Looked back. Jun-suk stood perfectly still, hands in his pockets, expression carefully blank. But his eyes told the truth. He was breaking. Jun-suk. Go, he said quietly. Before I beg you to stay. Amara's throat closed. She got in the car. The door shut. The engine started. Through the tinted window, she watched Jun-suk grow smaller as they pulled away. He never moved. Never looked away. Just stood there like a statue as the woman he loved drove out of his life. Amara pressed her hand to the window. Whispered words he'd never hear. I'm sorry. The car turned the corner. Jun-suk disappeared from view. And Amara realized with horrible certainty that she'd just walked away from the only man who'd ever truly seen her. The only man she'd ever loved. The father of her child. She'd told herself it was for the baby's protection. But as the miles stretched between them, one question haunted her. Had she just saved her child from danger? Or robbed them of the father who would have died to protect them? Amara made it 6 weeks. 6 weeks in a quiet apartment in Busan, far from Seoul's chaos. 6 weeks of pretending she'd made the right choice. 6 weeks of lying awake at night, hand on her swollen belly, wondering if Jun-suk was alive. She never called. He never came. It was exactly what she'd asked for. It was killing her. And then, on a Tuesday evening when the sun was setting over the harbor, everything fell apart. The first contraction hit while she was making dinner. Amara gripped the counter, breathing through the pain. False labor, probably. She was only 37 weeks. Still had time. The second contraction came 10 minutes later. Then 8. Then 5. This wasn't false labor. Amara grabbed her phone with shaking hands and called the number Jun-suk had made her memorize. "Emergency line," a woman's voice answered. "Professional. Come. This is Amara Okoye. I'm in labor. I need." The window exploded. Glass shattered inward. Amara screamed, dropping the phone, covering her head as shards rained down. Voices outside. Korean. Angry. Footsteps on the fire escape. They'd found her. Amara didn't think. She ran. Out the apartment door, down the hallway, toward the stairs. Another contraction seized her halfway down the first flight. She grabbed the railing, gasping, trying not to scream. Behind her, the apartment door crashed open. She went this way. Amara forced herself to move. Down another flight. Another. Her water broke on the third-floor landing. She felt it, the warm rush, the sudden pressure, and nearly sobbed. Not now. Not like this. She made it to the ground floor and burst out into the alley. The evening air hit her face. She could hear traffic. People. Safety was close. But so were her pursuers. A hand grabbed her arm. Amara spun, striking out blindly. Her palm connected with a face. The man grunted, stumbled back. She ran. Or tried to. Her body was in full labor now. Every step was agony. Every breath a battle. She made it to the street. Cars honked. People stared. "Help!" she screamed in Korean. "Please, someone." A black van screeched to a stop in front of her. The door slid open. Men in suits poured out. But these men weren't attacking her. They were forming a protective circle around her. "Miss Okoye." One of them, young, professional, spoke in English. "We're with Mr. Kong. You're safe now." The baby. Another contraction. Worse than the others. "The baby's coming." "We know. We're taking you to the hospital. Can you walk?" Amara shook her head, tears streaming down her face. The man didn't hesitate. He scooped her up and carried her to the van. As they pulled away, Amara looked back through the rear window. Her pursuers stood in the street, watching. They'd almost had her. Almost. The hospital was chaos. Nurses. Doctors. Korean voices shouting medical terms Amara didn't understand. She was wheeled into a delivery room, her body screaming, her mind fracturing with pain and fear. "Where's Jun-suk?" she gasped to the man who'd carried her. I need him. He's coming. He's on his way." "How far?" The man hesitated. "Seoul. He's in Seoul. 2 hours away." Amara's next contraction made her scream. The doctor appeared, speaking rapidly in Korean. The nurse translated. "You're fully dilated. The baby's coming now. You need to push." "I can't. Not without." "You have to." Another contraction. Amara pushed. And in that moment, she understood what terror really felt like. Not the gunfire. Not the chase. Not the fear of dying. the terror of bringing new life into the world alone. Somewhere between Busan and Seoul, Jun-suk's phone rang. She's in labor. He didn't ask questions. Didn't hesitate. How long? Minutes. Maybe an hour if she's lucky. Jun-suk's hands tightened on the steering wheel. He was already doing 180 kilometers per hour. His driver sat white-knuckled in the passenger seat. I need to be there. Sir, the traffic. I don't care about traffic. Jun-suk's voice was steel. Clear the road. Use every resource we have. Police connections. Traffic cameras. I don't care what it takes. Get me to that hospital. He pressed harder on the accelerator. Behind him, 3 cars full of security followed. In front of him, Seoul's evening traffic stretched endlessly. Jun-suk had faced down rival gangs, had survived assassination attempts, had built an empire through violence and will. But in this moment, he was just a man trying to reach the woman he loved before their child entered the world without him. And he was losing. Back in the delivery room, Amara was breaking. Physically, emotionally, completely. One more push, the doctor urged. I can see the head. Amara pushed, screamed, felt something tear inside her. Good. Again. She couldn't. She had nothing left. But then she thought of Jun-suk. Standing in that driveway 6 weeks ago, watching her leave with eyes that said everything his mouth wouldn't. I love you. I'll let you go. But I'll never stop protecting you. She'd left him. But he'd never left her. Those men outside her apartment. Jun-suk's men. The van that appeared exactly when she needed it. Jun-suk's resources. The hospital, the security, the safety she'd felt even in her terror. All Jun-suk. He'd been protecting her from the shadows this entire time. Loving her even when she'd walked away. Amara gathered every ounce of strength she had left and pushed. The baby's cry split the air. It's a girl, the doctor announced, placing the tiny, screaming infant on Amara's chest. A girl. Amara's hands trembled as she touched her daughter's face. So small. So perfect. So absolutely worth every moment of pain. Hi, she whispered. Hi, baby. I'm your mama. And your daddy. Her voice broke. Your daddy would be here if he could. He's trying so hard to get here. He loves you so much already. The baby's cries softened. And then Amara heard it. Shouting in the hallway. Sir, you can't. My daughter was just born. Try to stop me. The delivery room door slammed open. Jun-suk stood there, disheveled, wild-eyed, breathing hard. His eyes found Amara, then dropped to the baby in her arms. Everything else in the room disappeared. He crossed to them in 3 strides, falling to his knees beside the bed. You made it, Amara sobbed. I'll always make it. His hand reached out, trembling, to touch their daughter's tiny fist. Always. The baby's fingers wrapped around his. Jun-suk's face crumpled. She's perfect, he whispered. She's. His voice broke. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I wasn't here. I tried to. You were always here. Amara grabbed his free hand. You never stopped protecting us. Even when I left. Even when You did what you had to do. Jun-suk looked up at her. And I failed you. Those men who attacked you, they were my fault. My enemies. We'll talk about it later. Amara pulled him closer. Right now, meet your daughter. Jun-suk stood carefully. Amara shifted the baby so he could see her properly. Can I? He hesitated. Can I hold her? She's yours too. Jun-suk took their daughter with terrifying gentleness. Cradled her like she was made of glass. The baby opened her eyes. Jun-suk made a sound halfway between a laugh and a sob. Hi, he whispered. Hi, little one. I'm your father. And I promise I'm going to be better for you. I'm going to change. I'm going to. Alarms blared. Jun-suk's head snapped up. The nurse was staring at a monitor, face pale. She's bleeding. Postpartum hemorrhage. We need to. Everything happened at once. Doctors rushed in. The baby was taken from Jun-suk's arms. Amara was being moved, people shouting medical terms, hands pressing on her stomach. Jun-suk was pushed back. "Sir, you need to leave." "I'm not leaving her." "Sir, please." Amara's vision was blurring. The room spinning. She saw Jun-suk fighting to reach her, saw security holding him back, saw his face, terrified, desperate, breaking. "Jun-suk." Her voice came out weak. He stopped fighting. "I'm here. I'm right here. The baby, keep her safe. You're going to keep her safe. You're going to be fine. Amara, listen to me." But his voice was fading. The last thing Amara saw before everything went dark was Jun-suk's face, and the terror in his eyes that said he was about to lose everything that mattered. Amara woke to the sound of her daughter crying. Her eyes opened slowly. White ceiling. Sterile smell. Hospital. She was alive. Amara. Jun-suk was beside her, holding their daughter, his eyes red-rimmed and exhausted. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. "How long?" Her voice came out raspy. 18 hours. "You lost a lot of blood." His voice broke. "They almost lost you." Amara tried to sit up. Jun-suk was there immediately, supporting her, adjusting pillows with one hand while cradling the baby with the other. "She's been crying for you," he said softly. "She won't settle. I've tried everything." Amara reached for her daughter. The moment the baby was in her arms, the crying stopped. "She knows her mama," Jun-suk whispered. They sat in silence for a moment, the three of them, a family born from chaos. "Jun-suk," Amara said finally. "The men who attacked me, dead." His voice was flat. "All of them. I made sure of it." "How many? Does it matter?" "Yes." Jun-suk's jaw tightened. 7. The entire cell that was hunting you. They're gone. Amara should have felt something. Horror. Disgust. Relief. Instead, she just felt tired. "And their organization?" she asked. "Dismantled. I spent the last 6 weeks systematically destroying every group that posed a threat to you. The Choi family doesn't exist anymore. Neither do 3 other rival factions." He looked at her. "You're safe now. Truly safe." "At what cost?" Jun-suk's expression didn't change. "Everything. My empire. My reputation. My power. I burned it all down to protect you." Amara's breath caught. "You walked away." "I had to. It was the only way to end the cycle. The only way to ensure our daughter doesn't grow up with targets on her back." His hand found hers. "I chose you. Both of you. Over everything." The next 3 days passed in a blur. Amara recovered. The baby, they still hadn't named her, slept and cried and nursed. Jun-suk never left their side. On the 4th day, he brought clothes and documents. "We need to leave Korea," he said. "Today." Amara looked up from feeding the baby. "Already? There are still people who know what I was. What I did. As long as we're here, there's a risk." Jun-suk sat beside her. "I've arranged everything. New identities. A house in New Zealand. Far from Seoul. Far from this life." "New Zealand," Amara repeated. "You'll be able to see your family. I've set up secure channels for communication. Money transfers. Video calls. Whatever you need." He paused. "I know I can't give you everything, but I can give you safety, and freedom, and a life where our daughter doesn't have to be afraid." Amara studied his face. He looked different, lighter somehow, like a weight had been lifted. "What about you?" she asked. "What do you get out of this?" Jun-suk's eyes met hers. "I get to be a father," he said simply. "I get to watch our daughter grow up. I get to wake up every morning next to the woman I love without wondering if today's the day I lose her." His voice roughened. "That's more than I ever thought I deserved." The baby stirred in Amara's arms. Jun-suk reached out, traced a finger along their daughter's cheek. We need to name her, he said. Amara had been thinking about this. I want a name that means strength, survival, hope. What about Zuri? Junsuk suggested. It means beautiful in Swahili, and Jiwoo as her Korean name. Wisdom and universe. Zuri Jiwoo Kong. Amara tested the name. It's perfect. Junsuk smiled, a real smile, full and genuine. She's perfect. But before they could leave, one final confrontation remained. It came that afternoon. Junsuk's phone rang. His expression darkened as he listened. Understood. I'm coming. He stood, already moving toward the door. What is it? Amara asked. Lee Sangmin, the old head of the Seoul Alliance. He's demanding a meeting. Why? Because I destroyed the entire power structure without his permission. Because I walked away from obligations. Because Junsuk's jaw tightened. Because he thinks I've shown weakness. And he wants to make an example of me. Don't go. I have to. If I don't face this now, it'll follow us. Everywhere we go. Then I'm coming with you. Junsuk turned. Absolutely not. Yes. Amara stood carefully, still sore but steady. You said you chose us. That you're done with that life. Then prove it. Face them with me beside you. Show them you're not the monster anymore. You're a man. A father. She stopped. Junsuk waited. A husband. Amara finished quietly. If you'll have me. Junsuk's eyes widened. What? We've done everything backwards. But I don't care about the order anymore. Amara held Zuri closer. I love you. I want to build a life with you. A real life. Not as your obligation. Not as the mother of your child. As your partner. Your equal. Your. Junsuk crossed the room and kissed her. Deep. Desperate. Full of everything words couldn't say. When they pulled apart, he was smiling through tears. Yes, he whispered. Yes to everything. Always yes. 2 hours later, they stood in a private room in Seoul's most exclusive hotel. Lee Sangmin sat at the head of a long table, flanked by 6 other crime lords. All men who'd once feared and respected Junsuk. Now they looked at him with contempt. Amara stood beside Junsuk, holding Zuri. She'd insisted. If he was going to face his past, he wouldn't do it alone. Kong Junsuk. Lee Sangmin's voice dripped with disdain. You've caused quite the disruption. I ended necessary conflicts, Junsuk said calmly. You destroyed millions of won in territory. You eliminated valuable assets. You abandoned your position. Lee leaned forward. And for what? A woman. The dismissal in his tone made Amara's blood boil. Not a woman, Junsuk said quietly. My family. Family. Lee laughed. You think family makes you stronger? Makes you weak. Vulnerable. Just like your father. Junsuk's hands clenched. But before he could respond, Amara stepped forward. You're wrong, she said clearly. Every eye in the room turned to her. Amara, Junsuk warned. She ignored him. You think love is weakness, Amara continued. You think caring about someone makes you vulnerable. But you're wrong. Junsuk was at his weakest when he had nothing to lose. When he was just a monster ruling through fear. Now. She looked at Junsuk. Now he has everything to lose. And that makes him more dangerous than he's ever been. Lee Sangmin's expression hardened. Is that a threat? No. It's a promise. Amara's voice was steel. You can try to drag him back into your world. You can threaten us. You can send your men after us. But understand this, he's already destroyed everyone who tried. And he did it while planning to walk away. Imagine what he'll do if you force him to stay and fight. The room went silent. Junsuk stared at her, something like awe in his expression. Lee Sangmin stood slowly. You think you can just walk away? Yes, Junsuk said. Because I'm done. The territories are redistributed. The conflicts are resolved. You have what you wanted, stability without my interference.
And if we refuse to let you go?
Junsook's eyes went cold. Then I'll remind you why everyone feared me in the first place. But this time, I won't be fighting for power. He pulled Amara closer. I'll be fighting for them. And I promise you, that's a war you'll lose. The threat hung in the air. Lee Sang-min studied them. Junsook, cold, determined, protective. Amara, fierce, unafraid, holding their daughter like a shield and a promise. Finally, Lee nodded slowly. Go, he said. But if you ever return to this world, the deal is void. I won't return, Junsook said. I have everything I need. They left Seoul that night. Private plane. New passports. New lives waiting in New Zealand. As the plane climbed above the city lights, Amara looked out the window at Seoul disappearing below. Any regrets? Junsook asked softly. Amara looked at him. Then at Zuri, sleeping peacefully in her arms. Only one, she said. Junsook's expression tightened. I regret not seeing you sooner, Amara continued. The real you. The man who was always there, underneath the monster. The man who was worth saving. Junsook's hand found hers. You didn't save me, he said. You gave me a reason to save myself. Zuri stirred, making a small sound. Both parents looked down at her. She's going to have a normal life, Junsook whispered. No violence. No fear. No enemies. Just family. Family, Amara repeated. I like the sound of that. Junsook pulled something from his pocket. A small velvet box. I know we're doing everything backwards, he said. But... Amara kissed him before he could finish. When they pulled apart, she was smiling. Yes, she said. To everything. To family. To normal. To the rest of our lives. Junsook slipped the ring on her finger. Outside, Seoul faded into the distance. And three people who'd been broken by violence, humiliation, and fear flew toward a future built on love, healing, and the hardest choice either of them had ever made. To choose each other. Over power. Over pride. Over everything. 6 months later, in a small house on the coast of New Zealand, Amara woke to the sound of her husband singing softly in Korean. She found him in the nursery, holding Zuri, swaying gently as dawn light filtered through the windows. What are you singing? Amara asked from the doorway. Junsook turned, smiling. A lullaby my mother used to sing. Before everything. It's beautiful. So is this. Junsook looked around the simple nursery. The quiet house. The peaceful morning. I never thought I could have this. Normal. Simple. Safe. Amara moved to his side. Was it worth it? Everything you gave up. Junsook looked down at their daughter. Then at Amara. I didn't give up anything, he said softly. I traded an empire for a family. Power for peace. Fear for love. He kissed Amara's forehead. I got the better deal. Zuri gurgled happily. And in that moment, standing in a nursery halfway around the world from where their story began, two people from different worlds who'd survived humiliation, violence, and their own demons, finally found what they'd been searching for all along. Home. Thank you for watching Afro Korean Tales and Stories. If this story stayed with you, there are more waiting here. Subscribe to Afro Korean Tales and Stories for a love that crosses cultures and lingers. Tell us in the comments, what emotion are you leaving this story with?